This is Imre Galambos, Professor of Chinese at the University of Cambridge. And this video is about how you can optimize your Kindle to make it even easier to read on it. These are very simple adjustments, but the benefits can be considerable. My main point is to eliminate friction and to reduce the noise. So if you're interested in this, then keep watching. But before you do that, please hit the subscribe and like buttons to help the channel and to be notified when new videos come online. Using the Kindle is an overwhelmingly positive experience. As many people have stated, it has the capacity to change completely the way you read. And so many of these people claim that they will never go back to reading paper books again. Using a Kindle has certainly been a transformative experience for me, as I started reading much more and a much wider variety of things, even though I was an active reader before that too. But in the course of using the Kindle, I also developed some tricks that make my use of it easier and smoother, and this way I could increase the benefits I derive from it. At the beginning, we need to make a distinction between optimization and extended functionality, because maximizing the functional capabilities of the Kindle is actually quite different from maximizing the facility of its use. Even though the Kindle is relatively limited in terms of the functions it can offer, it does have a range of these, and becoming familiar with this may be useful to some readers. Among these is the option of setting up a password to protect your Kindle, or switching between the types of backgrounds, switching between different modes of organizing and displaying your books, etc. Although these functions make the use of the Kindle all that more interesting and make it a little bit more like an iPad or a tablet, in reality, they do not really make the use of the Kindle any smoother. Quite to the contrary, they make using it more cumbersome. Because let's face it, the Kindle is kind of clumsy, and navigating through different menu options can be frustratingly slow. Instead, one of the best ways of optimizing the use of the device is by getting rid of all the obstacles in my way. I want to remove all barriers to be able to pick it up and begin reading as quickly and effortlessly as possible. And when I open it, I just want to continue reading where I stopped before. I certainly don't need a password to protect the novel I'm reading, as the need to type in the password every time I open it literally creates an artificial barrier in my way. So if I want to optimize my experience, I want to go the minimalist way, with as little functionality as possible, and I don't want to navigate between different menu points. I simply want the core function of the device, which is to display text to me. If anything, I want to completely eliminate the need to interact with the device, of me paying attention to the Kindle itself, because what I do want to pay attention to is what I'm reading on it. Again, this might be different for everyone, and some Kindle users may enjoy tweaking with the possibilities, trying out every new ways of displaying the text, and then changing that, and then changing it back again. For me personally, I only want what I actually want. Everything else is just noise. And to be honest, this is actually one of the beauties of the Kindle. It's set up with the idea to facilitate reading. And of course buying books, but that's another matter. So in concrete terms, I can think of the following points to optimize my Kindle. Number one is setting up the reading interface. Although there are a variety of different things I can change on the Kindle, like I can change the brightness of the screen or the warmth of the light, or even set up an animation for when I'm turning the pages. But I don't really want that. What I do want is to set it up in a way that I feel comfortable with. And then, and this is the most important part, I just stick with it. I stop fiddling with the possibilities, trying to improve the settings. I choose the right settings once, and then I move on from this so I can actually read. This does not mean, of course, that I no longer change anything. I can always take a few minutes to adjust something to make it better, but I don't do this while I'm reading, or immediately before that, or even instead of reading. So the only thing that I actually change quite often is the size of the font, which can be changed relatively quickly without navigating away from the screen. But I do try to keep these changes to a minimum and just go with the settings that I've already set up, with which I'm actually quite comfortable. So number two is removing the password. This is kind of a no-brainer, and the default setting is not having a password, but I do want to emphasize that I really don't want to put a password protection on my device, because I don't want to be entering the password every time I open my Kindle, and having to type it in, and sometimes I may get it wrong, or the worst case scenario that I forget it and then I need to reset the whole thing. which basically means that I won't be reading, especially if I only had 10 minutes of break between doing two tasks. A password is quite literally a barrier, a lock that prevents others from entering. And while I do have the key, I don't want to be fiddling with trying to find the key or even trying to use it. I would much rather prefer if there was no lock, and there was even no door. The basic idea is that I want no obstructions whatsoever between me and my device. And this is why the minimalist approach works well for me. Point number 3 is keeping the Kindle charged. This means that I want to make sure that my Kindle doesn't run out of battery just when I'm about to start to read, or when I'm traveling and I don't have the charger with me. Fortunately, the Kindle is very efficient in this respect, and the battery lasts for weeks. Well, depending on how much you actually use it. Of course, you can save power by reducing the brightness of the screen, but this is not something I want to economize on because I do want to read at an optimal brightness. But something that I could save power with is setting the Kindle to airplane mode, so that it does not automatically connect to the internet in the background, syncing with apps or doing whatever it does at these times. Again, the idea is that I don't want to be thinking about the battery when I pick up the Kindle to read. I don't even want to be thinking about the Kindle. I just want to be able to focus on my reading. Point number 4 is keeping it at hand. This is a really simple point, but a very powerful one. It is also about removing friction between me and the Kindle. Whether I sit down on the sofa or in the kitchen, I want to be able to just pick up the Kindle and then read right away. I don't want to have to run upstairs and look for it, or try to fish it out from behind a sofa where it fell 2 days ago, or to run to my car and try to find it among the stuff in the trunk. I want it within arm's reach so I can turn it on and read the minute the idea crosses my mind. Not only that, but I want it to be visible to me when I walk into the room or sit down on the sofa. So I would reach for the Kindle instead of reaching for the TV's remote control. It is kind of like when somebody goes on a diet, they remove all unhealthy food away from their eyes. They create friction to access these things. In my case, I want to remove friction, so nothing stands between me and the Kindle. Okay, so these were my main points of optimizing the Kindle. As you can see, one of the main ideas is to remove all unnecessary noise from the equation so that nothing distracts me and I can focus my attention on what I want to accomplish rather than fiddling with how I want to accomplish it. And the main idea is to remove friction, to eliminate any and all obstacles so the act of picking it up and starting to read is completely effortless. I would also love to hear your comments on this, so please write in the comments section below. Thank you for watching and see you next time.